45 is 47. MAGA rules the night as Trump wins the White House. This is Now You Know. I'm Rob Snow.
Navigating the issues that matter to you. It's Now You Know with Rob Snow on News Radio.
In the end, it really wasn't that close. Donald Trump will become the 47th president of the United States. It was a win in the battleground state of Wisconsin, declared early this morning, that put Trump over the top and gave him the 270 Electoral College votes needed to clinch the White House. And meanwhile, Democrats will have to try and figure out what went wrong with the Kamala Harris campaign. For Donald Trump, it caps a remarkable political comeback, maybe the greatest political comeback in American history. And he told his supporters in a victory speech that he has been given an unprecedented and powerful mandate.
We have taken back control of the Senate. Wow, that's good. And the Senate races in Montana, Nevada, Texas, Ohio, Michigan, Wisconsin, the great Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, were all won by the MAGA movement. They helped so much.
Trump would go on to say his campaign delivered a realignment that would make America greater than it's ever been.
We're going to make our country better than it ever has been. And I said that many people have told me that God spared my life for a reason. And that reason was to save our country and to restore America to greatness. And now we are going to fulfill that mission together. We're going to fulfill that mission. The task before us will not be easy, but I will bring every ounce of energy, spirit, and fight that I have in my soul to the job that you've entrusted to me. This is a great job. There's no job like this. This is the most important job in the world. Just as I did in my first term, we had a great first term, a great first term. I will govern by a simple motto: promises made, promises kept. We're going to keep our promises.
Also speaking at Trump's victory event was Dana White, the CEO of UFC, the Ultimate Fighting Championship, a longtime friend of Trump's. He called Trump's win karma.
Nobody deserves this more than him, and nobody deserves this more than his family does. This is what happens when the machine comes after you. What you've seen over the last several years, this is what it looks like. Couldn't stop him. He keeps going forward. He doesn't quit. He's the most resilient, hard-working man I've ever met in my life. His family are incredible people. This is karma, ladies and gentlemen. He deserves this. They deserve it as a family. I want to thank some people real quick. I want to thank the Nelk Boys, Aiden Ross, Theo Vaughn, Bustin' with the Boys, and last but not least, the mighty and powerful Joe Rogan.
Trump did an interview with Joe Rogan in the final week of the campaign. Kamala Harris did not. The Democrats were just not able to carry enough of the so-called swing states or the battleground states like Michigan, Nevada, Georgia, the all-important states of Pennsylvania and Wisconsin. The Harris campaign didn't do as well as Joe Biden did 4 years ago. The Harris campaign didn't do as well as Hillary Clinton did back in 2016. Kamala Harris did not speak to her supporters last night. She has yet to concede. She is expected to make remarks later today. Former advisor to former U.S. President Barack Obama, David Axelrod, told CNN that Donald Trump appealed to racism and sexism to help him win the White House, but Axelrod admitted the Trump campaign was a good one.
It wasn't a mandate to wantonly use the power of the presidency to punish his political enemies. It wasn't a mandate to help enrich himself and his friends. It wasn't a mandate to single out groups in our society for scorn, or worse. I'd love to hear from Van on this, but let's be honest about this, okay? Let's be absolutely blunt about it. There were appeals to racism in this campaign, and there is racial bias in this country, and there is sexism in this country. And anybody who thinks that that did not in any way impact on the outcome of this race is wrong. I'm not saying that was the main reason that Kamala Harris lost and Donald Trump won. And I think they ran honestly, strategically, his campaign. And I've said it many times. They ran a very smart campaign. It was an ultimately rational, well-conceived, and well-executed campaign for an irrational, often irrational candidate. And they overcame him to sell his message, or the message that they thought he should be selling to the country.
But Scott Jennings, another CNN contributor, suggested Democrats have no one to blame but themselves.
This is a big deal. This isn't backing into the office. This is a mandate to do what you said you were going to do. Get the economy working again for regular working class Americans, fix immigration, try to get crime under control, try to reduce the chaos in the world. This is a mandate from the American people to do that. I think I'm interpreting the results tonight as the revenge of just the regular old working class American, the anonymous American who has been crushed, insulted, condescended to. They're not garbage. They're not Nazis. They're just regular people who get up and go to work every day and are trying to make a better life for their kids, and they feel like they have been told to just shut up when they have complained about the things that are hurting them in their own lives.
So as things stand right now, the Republicans, with Donald Trump, win the White House. The Republicans take the Senate. And the Republicans lead in the House races as well, although control of the House remains a question mark. I'm Rob Snow. This is Now You Know on News Radio.
Now You Know with Rob Snow continues on News Radio.
It was a very late night for people watching the results come in from the U.S. election. It was well after midnight Eastern time when it became clear that Donald Trump would be the winner. Reaction, as you can imagine, is pouring in and is all over social media. My good friend David Smith is here with a roundup. David?
Yes, well caffeinated here and ready to go. Reaction. That is the key word for us in the news business today, isn't it? Reaction. We have all of the reaction to the big Trump win. I've been scouring the internet this morning, collecting the clips that are reaching the most eyeballs. I have a few to share with you here. And the first one I want to play is from CNN's senior political pundit, Scott Jennings. This was around 4 a.m. Eastern time, after it became clear that Trump would win. And I've seen this clip shared more than any other moment from the major cable news channels last night from people on both the left and the right who I follow. Take a listen.
I'm interpreting the results tonight as the revenge of just the regular old working class American, the anonymous American who has been crushed, insulted, condescended to. They're not garbage. They're not Nazis. They're just regular people who get up and go to work every day and are trying to make a better life for their kids, and they feel like they have been told to just shut up when they have complained about the things that are hurting them in their own lives. I also feel like this election, as we sit here and pour over this tonight, is something of an indictment of the political information complex. I mean, we've been sitting around here for the last couple of weeks, and the story that was portrayed was not true. I mean, we were told Puerto Rico was going to change the election. Liz Cheney, Nikki Haley voters, women lying to their husbands. Before that, it was Tim Walz and the camo hats. Night after night after night, we were told all these things and gimmicks were going to somehow push Harris over the line. And we were just ignoring the fundamentals. Inflation, people feeling like that they were barely able to tread water at best. That was the fundamentals of the election. And so I think that both parties should always look at the results of an election and figure out what went right and what went wrong. But I think for all of us who cover elections and talk about elections and do this on a day-to-day basis, We have to figure out how to understand, talk to, and listen to the half of the country that rose up tonight and said, we've had enough.
Moment of self-reflection there from a top talking head at CNN, Scott Jennings. That's the view from the legacy media. Let's hear now from somebody in the new media sphere. The founder of Barstool Sports is Dave Portnoy. Barstool is a hugely influential brand. Millions and millions and millions of people subscribe to their many platforms and offerings. Here's the view from the guy at the top, a self-described independent, moderate voter, Dave Portnoy.
A lot of people are asking, like, how did Trump get more votes than he got last time? Well, here's the answer. Because people like myself, independents or moderates, the Democrats gave us no choice. The Democrats gave us no choice. That was the worst campaign, and their pure arrogance and their moral superiority have driven people away. If you say you're voting for Trump, suddenly you're a Nazi, you're Hitler, you're garbage. Enough. Millions and millions and millions and millions of people vote for Trump. He won clear, he won decisive. So when you call us that, and when you say that, you're calling the majority of the country racist, Hitlers, Nazis. I don't think you get the words of what that means. You are alienating all this middle ground people by acting like you're better than us, smarter than us, and frankly, insulting our intelligence. Trump's the threat to democracy. That was the entire Democratic campaign. It wasn't about policy because everyone knew we want change. We're not happy with the borders, the Middle East, the economy, inflation. And Kamala consistently said she was no different than Joe Biden, wouldn't do anything different than Joe Biden, last person in the room. Her pitch to the people was Trump is Hitler, Trump is bad, he's a dictator. It was a ringing endorsement for the Republicans, Trump, ringing indictment against the Democrats. They got to look themselves in the mirror. This moral superiority complex they have, this arrogance they have, it's not working. And it's time to wake up and see that. You're alienating half the country, more of it. Wake up, move on.
Dave Portnoy, founder of Barstool Sports, the view from the new media sphere. That video got more than 4 million views on his Twitter in about 3 hours this morning. Jon Stewart, he was on air last night with The Daily Show, live election night special. In the wee hours of the morning when Trump's victory became clear, Jon Stewart had some closing thoughts of his own on the 2024 campaign.
It hasn't been completely called yet. We don't exactly know what all the results are going to be. Our time is running out. I do want to very quickly send a quick message to all the pollsters, the election pollsters. Blow me. I don't ever want to from you again, ever. I don't ever want to hear, we've corrected for the overcorrection of the voters. You don't know about and I don't care for you.
That one is playing very well online today. Also, I have one more for you.
Sure.
I think this is my favorite of the clips circulating online this morning. Yeah. It's a viral moment from CNN's coverage with Jake Tapper and John King with that magic wall that CNN has that I know you love so much, Rob. This was actually quite early on in the night. This was when it was all still up in the air. But in hindsight, this interaction, I think, really set the tone for what was to come. King pulled up a graphic showing what that was supposed to show all of the districts in the country where Kamala Harris was doing better than Joe Biden did in 2020. The only problem was none of them were lighting up.
So you asked, are there any places that the vice president is overperforming Joe Biden in 2020? So we could show you that as well. We just bring that out here. Harris overperforming in 2020.
Holy smokes.
There you go. So let this go away and see if there's anything on the east side there.
Literally nothing?
Literally nothing.
Literally not one county?
Not one county. And Donald Trump is once again the president-elect of the United States.
Thank you, David. I'm Rob Snow. This is Now You Know. This is News Radio.
There is no question Rob won't get answered.
Now You Know with Rob Snow continues
on News Radio.
Here with David Smith the day after Or maybe it is, David, the same day, since the election wasn't called until early this morning.
Yeah, it is.
I'm a little bit confused.
It's the same day, yeah.
Late night. I am just mainlining caffeine, let me tell you. The stock market likes it.
Oh, yes.
David.
Yes,
that's for sure. Big rally on Wall Street today. The Dow's up more than 1,300 points right now. So that's a sizable gain for the Dow Industrial Average, up 3%. You have to remember, when it's up, 1,300 points, looks big, but the Dow's at 43,000 these days. S&P 500 is up about 2% right now. Get a NASDAQ. NASDAQ's up about 2.33%. Toronto is higher, but it's not nearly participating in the rally the way the Wall Street indices are. But the TSX is up about 0.5%. The U.S. dollar is strong today after Election Day. That is at the expense of our dollar, David. The loonie, which has been sitting at 4-year lows already, is down about 48 basis points right now. Back below 72 cents U.S. So we have a 71.84 cents U.S. Dollar. Gold off a little bit today, not by much, but back below $2,700 U.S. The Bitcoins are really running today.
Yes,
David, your
the
stash
crypto,
of Bitcoins that you have in your crypto wallet there.
They like Trump, the crypto markets, for sure.
Yes, they do. Bitcoin in U.S. dollars up 6%.
Whew.
It hit 75,000. It climbed above 75,000, all-time high for Bitcoin, and it's at about 74,900 right now. Crypto.
US.
$72 oil.
So
$72.
It's over $100,000 Canadian for one.
It's over $100,000.
One Bitcoin.
Yeah, it's $104,000 Canadian.
That's crazy to me.
It's $104,000 Canadian. And in fact, I can pull it up right now. Year to date, Bitcoin is up 85% so far this year. We see that the liberals, they never talk about Polyev and Bitcoin anymore. Remember, they used to hammer him. Oh, yeah, Polyev, if he had his way, he'd all go broke on Bitcoin and cryptocurrency. Well, I mean, the Bitcoin is doing better than the Canadian dollar.
Yeah.
That's
they
for
say
sure.
They say it's a long game.
Tesla, just very quickly here. Tesla, of course, Elon Musk was all in for Trump, campaigned for Trump, gave away $1 million a day. His super PAC giving away $1 million a day to Trump supporters who would sign a petition and supporting free speech and gun rights. Tesla is up right now. It is very near a 52-week high. It's up 14% today at $287 a share, making Tesla an almost $900 billion company. And Trump Media and Technology Group, that Trump thing, Truth Social and stuff like that, David.
Oh, yeah, right. Yeah.
Also up today, about 9%.
Okay.
Or so. Yeah, had been higher than that earlier in the day, but it's at $36 US a share, but it's up too. The market likes it. I'm Rob Snow. We'll find out what our Newsday panelists think of all of this and give you some Canadian angles to this story right after the news on News Radio.
You have questions.
Now you know with Rob Snow has the answers.
On News Radio, the Newsday panel.
Yes, and whatever will we talk about today with our Newsday panelist, Josie Sabatino, Senior Consultant, Summa Strategies. Hi, Josie.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Yeah, great to hear from you, along with Ashton Arsenault, partner at Crestview Strategy. Hello, Ashton.
How you doing, Rob?
I'm good. How are you doing?
Great.
That's good. Late night for everyone, I'm sure, and I really appreciate the time today as we kind of pick apart this U.S. election, talk about some of the Canadian angles. But, Josie, what was your kind of gut reaction to the results as they were coming in last night?
Well, on TV, you always have to watch for the campaign spinners because sometimes that's the most insightful commentary. And I couldn't help but notice when you start the evening, you get a lot of feedback from the Harris campaign saying that they were cautiously optimistic And then you fast forward a couple of hours later to 8 or 9 p.m. and you're getting this very different reaction, which is they've always been, their only path to victory was looking at that blue wall. So there was a lot of shifting commentary just in terms of how people were looking at this. And I think that's kind of the moment where I decided, you know, if this is the only path to victory and these numbers are so tight, this is not coming through for Harris.
Right. Yeah. And then even later in the night, early into the morning, it was radio silence, and they just, you know, whoever was speaking to the news media from the Harris campaign just stopped talking. What was your gut reaction to the results as they were coming in, Ashton?
Yeah, so I'll be honest. Shame on me. I didn't stay up until the point where it was called, but I had seen enough.
Oh, neither did I. Yeah.
I had seen enough to make a gut check that it was probably going to go Trump's way when I decided to fall asleep. Like Virginia was still Republican, which I thought was very, very unusual. But I started noticing something was a little bit trending in Trump's favor with the margins that he was ringing up in Florida. But I don't think anybody, what I'm most surprised about, Rob, is how decisive it was. I mean, he's going to win the popular vote. Not many people I'm aware of were predicting that. Pollsters, many of them extremely accomplished. I don't think anybody was calling that. You know, breaking it down, he won huge with white men, white women as well. He won with Latino men and women. He overperformed with African Americans compared to both 2016 and 2020. So, you know, it's decisive, and it looks, at least right now, things could change. He's going to win all of the battleground states. So it's an absolute rout. It's a romp, and it's a 4-year mandate, and a strong one at that.
Yeah, I had to, when I was doing my prep today, after I called it quits at about 1:30 in the morning Eastern time, I had to kind of double check it and fact check myself over and over. Like, did he win all of those battleground states? Like every single one, all 7 of them?
It looks that way.
Yeah, it looks that way. Okay, so I mean, there's just so many angles that we could come at this with this Harris campaign. What went wrong? What could have been done? What do you think went wrong with the Harris campaign, Josie?
My immediate thought, looking at the results that came through, to Ashton's point, this was a very decisive vote, is that the Harris campaign got the framing of the ballot box question wrong. They tried to make this a conversation about the existential threat to democracy when everybody only cares right now about the economy and paying their bills. And you watch a lot of those exit polls last night and the interviews with people, and it was the only thing anybody was talking about. I mean, there were tertiary issues that came up, like abortion, but I think overall this was a vote on the economy and who is best to lead the economy, you know, moving forward. So I think that really is where the Democrats need to do some critical thinking about where they want to be 4 years from now and who is the candidate to kind of reposition them towards the center, which I think they need to be if they are going to be viable in the next election.
Right. So they wanted to litigate Trump's failings, right? January 6th and all the court cases
Exactly.
and all of this stuff, when they actually missed the ballot question.
Correct. And
Which
all of these
was
celebrity endorsements
the economy.
spoke to democracy, and I really do think they missed the mark there.
Yeah, okay. On the Harris campaign, mistakes obviously must have been made by the Harris campaign. What do you think some of them were, Ashton?
Yeah, 2 things really stick out to me, and I'm paraphrasing some quote that I've seen online, and so I'm not going to attribute it properly, and for that I am sorry. But whether you like it or not, Trump ran an issues campaign, and Harris ran a vibes campaign.
Yes.
Like, he was very specific, deliberate, even methodical at times on what specifically he was going to do and what specifically he thought his antidote for what was ailing Americans was going to be. So that really sticks out. The second thing is how I think Kamala Harris came to be the Democratic nominee. You know, the proof perhaps will be in the pudding there in a future date, but the way that that was carried out and the fact that it wasn't a competitive process, I think did real damage to the Democratic Party, and I suspect that will be something that they will have some introspection over in the years ahead.
Oh, I bet they're talking about that right now. And I want to run that by Josie. This idea of how this all came to be, that it even was the Harris campaign of 107 days as the presidential candidate for the Democrats.
For sure. And
couple of questions for you, Josie. Do you think Joe Biden would have done better or worse? And do you think she would have done better if Biden had dropped out earlier?
Well, I think the thing about Harris, and I noticed a lot of spin on this last night, was that she just didn't have the time to introduce herself to the American population, which I think, we should reject, because she was in a very visible position, arguably one of the most visible positions within the country and the world. So she had time to make her case and her introduction to American citizens. But on the question of Joe Biden, I don't know. I think he woke up this morning and it wasn't a good day for him either. This is not the outcome he wanted. He really put his heart and soul, I think, into preserving what he thought was his legacy. And, at the end of the day, the American public voted, and this is the decisive result that we have.
Yeah. Any thoughts on that? Would Biden have done better? Could he have dropped out earlier, given her more runway, so to speak? Ashton, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of racking my brain. So I think after that first debate, Joe Biden was sort of marked for death, and I think the polls sort of were violently indicating that. So I think the Democratic machine had to do something. What I'm disagreeing with is how they did it, and I don't think it set them up for future success. I think they could have scrambled together some sort of quick primary to, allow their members to be more engaged, to make them feel as though they were part of the process, because it's a really big decision, right? And beyond that, I mean, what really sticks out to me, beyond what I've said already, is there were a couple of campaign gaffes there. I mean, they wanted the best parts of Joe Biden, and they wanted to distance themselves from the worst. You can't have your cake and eat it too. Kamala Harris was talking about, what would I have changed over the last 4 years? Not much. Well, read the room, because Americans aren't really happy with how the last 4 years have gone. And so it's little things like that I think spiraled out of control, and her turnout numbers are horrible. There was this wonderful moment on the CNN broadcast last night where I think it was Jake Tapper asked John King to haul up the counties where Kamala was outperforming Joe Biden. Zero. Across the country. Zero.
Yeah, David has that tape. David, can you play that again, David?
So you asked, are there any places that the vice president is overperforming Joe Biden in 2020? So we could show you that as well. We just bring that out here. Harris overperforming in 2020.
Holy smokes.
There you go. So let this go away and see if there's anything on the east side there.
Literally nothing?
Literally nothing.
Literally not one county?
Yeah. Okay. So look, when we come back, I heard this term over and over and over again on cable news last night. Last night was a realignment. There's a realignment underway in politics. I want to ask our panelists, what does that mean? What is being realigned? I'm Rob Snow. It's our Newsday panel. Getting reaction to the U.S. presidential election, of course. This is News Radio.
No question goes unasked or unanswered.
Now You Know with Rob Snow returns on News Radio.
Political commentators Josie Sabatino is here from Summa Strategy. Ashton Arsenault is a partner at Crestview Strategy. We're talking about the U.S. election, what it could mean for Canada. I heard Ashton over and over and over again last night. Realignment. The cable news people were saying realignment. There's a realignment happening in politics. What do you think that means?
Yeah, so two things pop into my head immediately. So, and this is not unique to the United States. I think we're going through it here in Canada as well. But there is this, sort of in unison weird dash towards the left side of the political spectrum by otherwise sort of centrist and center-left parties that I think we can make a very clear case in the Canadian perspective how that has worked previously, but I think the chickens are coming home to roost on that, and so that sticks out. The Democratic Party in the United States has done the exact same thing. The second is this repudiation, and it's an absolute repudiation that, people know better for you than you know for yourself. And that's really come home to roost once again. And I can think of a couple of examples in the United States, the sort of faceless, often victimized people who say that everything that they think is either untrue, false, it means that you're un-American, you don't stand for American values. it all came back to haunt the individuals that have been spreading that around last night, and I suspect we're about to see that happen in Canada as well. So in terms of realignment, I would point to those two things. Last but not least, ethnic communities. You know, it was thought to be impossible that Trump could perform well with Latino men and Latino women, and people were talking about the Puerto Rico comment that this comedian made. He won both. So, you know, just because you know, how you feel doesn't necessarily mean how other groups of individuals feel. And, yeah, quite a night.
Yeah. Josie, on this idea, realignment, that there's a realignment. What you hear that word, what do you think that means?
I think we're talking about working class and union voters. And I would point to an example that I thought was really stark in this context, which was that Teamsters, which has been heavily Democratic for nearly 2 decades, did not come out and endorse a candidate this year. And that is the first time in nearly 3 decades that they have not, you know, made a public endorsement. That speaks to the power. And I think, to quote this word, realignment, that is happening. And we saw a lot of those voters push into the Republican Party last night. But on that point, Trump, you know, he really used the visuals to his credits. We saw him at McDonald's. We saw him on, you know, the garbage truck. And I think these things were widely mocked on social media, but they have power. And when you're talking about people who are trying to make ends meet and put groceries on the table, I think these visuals spoke to the power of the campaign and tapping into this very sentiment.
Yeah. So when we come back, I want to kind of take and run with this idea of Trump building this kind of working class coalition and bringing more people into his working class coalition, because I really, when I look at our politics, I see grand parallels there to what Pierre Poilievre has been trying to do in this country at the expense of, say, the New Democrats and the Liberals. Doug Ford, too, as well, and his success in going after working class voters, rank and file union members. When we come back with our Newsday panelists, I'm Rob Snow, News Radio.
Critical thinking is not dead.
Now you know with Rob Snow.
Returns on News Radio.
Here with Ashton Arsenault, Josie Sabatino, as we talk about the outcome of the U.S. presidential election campaign. Trump has built a working class coalition, it's been said in the last few hours. And I think, isn't that what Poilievre has been doing in Canada? Wouldn't you say so? To great effect. Josie, what do you think?
Absolutely. And I think the message has been so simple in the fact that he wants to restore jobs that can support your family with, that you can buy a house with, and get back to a time of small government where they're not getting in your way. And I think that is what Trump did so effectively, was frame the conversation around the economy, bring it back to this very central idea that, you know, you can support a good life here. And that has been the core tenet that Poilievre has based his 4 principles around. So I think it will continue to be successful. And, you know, he has made his way into some rural areas in this country that I think have long felt ignored by the government, especially during the Trudeau years. So I think it will be met with great effect come the next election.
Yeah, what do you think, Ashton?
Yeah, Rob, it's an economic proposition at the end of the day. So, you know, do you want an America First policy or a Canada First policy when it comes to you and your family? Are you tired of foreign countries undercutting your hard work with cheap goods and labor? Are you tired of your boss's boss cutting deals without you getting a say? Are you tired of politicians telling you that you work in a dirty job that hurts the environment? To the point, that's what the realignment is. People are tired.
Okay. As these results were coming in last night, it was becoming more and more clear that Trump was going to win. I think we got signals of this very early on when the exit poll numbers were coming out, and you were seeing the results of the questions that were asked. Who do you trust on the economy? Well, I trust Trump a lot more than Harris on the economy. Who do you trust on immigration? Well, I trust Trump a lot more on immigration than I trust Harris. What did you think of the Biden presidency? Well, I didn't think very much of it. I thought when I saw the results of those exit polls, that's not a very good sign for the Harris campaign. And here we are. Okay. I was thinking, what does this say to the messaging that we're hearing from the Trudeau Liberals? and what could be coming their way when we have an election, whenever that is in the spring or maybe a year from now. I was thinking, well, if this is how the Democrats performed in the United States, how are the Trudeau Liberals going to do in 6 months or a year from now? I think it could be even worse for them. Josie, what do you think?
Yeah, I think public opinion polling tells us that right now. If you look at the snapshot in time, I think those results will hold true whenever the next federal election is. But I'll say this thing I said at the start of this interview, which is that if the Trudeau government insists on framing this conversation around democracy and, you know, the failings and the threat of a pure poly of government, he will lose.
Yeah.
He will continue to lose, and he will lose big. They need to get back to trying to understand what working Canadians want and getting back in touch with the average Canadian, which they have done. You know, they have lost all ability to do so over the last 9 years. And I think that's fundamental to any re-election strategy.
Yeah, maybe a final thought from you on that, Ashton.
Yeah, I was going to say hubris is winning the day, right? So save the U-turn on immigration, which has come down the pipe from the government recently, a day late and a dollar short at that. There's still this sinking feeling within me that they still know what's better for you than you do. They will be taught a lesson.
Yeah, like I look at liberal Twitter today. I mean, official liberal Twitter. Like, why is Stephen Guilbeault on my Twitter feed talking about the virtues of the oil and gas emissions cap when it's very clear? First of all, industry doesn't like it. Even some environmental groups question the need for it, and it comes across as so virtuous and preachy and out to lunch and not in tune with the needs of real working people. Like, they still, it seems to me, just aren't getting it. I think we'll close on that. I believe that's our time. Thank you so much for today.
Thanks,
really appreciate it.
Thank you.
It's going to be really interesting few months and years ahead with Donald Trump once again winning the White House. That's our Newsday panel. Okay, Talkback coming up right after the news. It's Talkback. Trump wins the election. Why did Trump win the election? Why did Harris lose the election? The election's over. Trump's the president again. How do you feel about that? Let's talk about it. Biggest story in the world. Trump's back. Your thoughts next on News Radio.
It's time to talk back.
On Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Call now.
And have your say.
1-833-668-2577.
Welcome to Talkback. 2 hours of debate and discussion on the big issues of the day. And what's bigger than the U.S. election? What's bigger than what happened yesterday into this morning? Trump wins, everybody. Trump wins. Trump is back. President-elect of the United States of America. So let's talk about it. The phone lines are open right now. Share your thoughts. Share your thoughts. 1-833-668-2577. 1-833-668-2577. It's an incredible moment. Whatever you think of it, good or bad, you can't deny it's history making. So now that everyone has had at least a few hours of sleep, I'm running on fumes myself. Now that maybe you've had some time to think about it, talk to your friends about it, your co-workers about it, whatever the case might be, family members. What do you think? What do you think about it? Why did this happen? How did this happen? Trump is back. Let me ask you, how does this make you feel, this outcome? Okay, how are you feeling today? Trump won the White House, and it wasn't really that close. We were told it was going to be close. It wasn't even really close, was it? How are you feeling? How are you feeling about this incredible turn of events? Do you feel happy? Do you feel overjoyed, thrilled, excited? Yeah. Or is it a sad day? Disappointment? Are you depressed? I mean, a little down in the dumps? I listened to David. I don't know if you had that clip of Jagmeet Singh, the NDP leader in Ottawa. I mean, he's saying people are disappointed. They're crushed, he said. You know, are you scared? Are you scared about what this outcome could mean? Heard that? Could mean for the United States, could mean for Canada, could mean for the world. Are you scared? Are you afraid of what this outcome could mean? Are you confused? Hey, I'm confused. Still trying to figure it all out. That's perfectly fine. I'm sure you're not alone today. Sure you're not the only one. Prefer to hear from you today. I have no special insight into why this election turned out the way it did. I'm not probably going to say anything you haven't heard on television already. I am curious about a number of things. You know, I wonder what this means for Canada. I wonder what this means for the Trudeau Liberals, for example, which is really struggling to gain any kind of mojo in our politics these days, the Liberals. I think there are lots of lessons here for Team Trudeau and in what happened in this election. I don't think it bodes well for them, given their inability, their refusal to change course on a number of their own priorities and political messages. But we can get into all of this as we make our way through the next 2 hours. Much rather hear from you than you listen to me. So the phone line's open right now, 1-833-668-2577. If you've never called before, just mention that to our call screener. We'll make your call a priority. What the heck happened? Why did Trump win? And how are you feeling about it? Eric in Halifax. Hello, Eric. Hi, Eric.
Yeah, good afternoon, Rob. Well, I was up to 4 o'clock, and when after the polls closed, after the first 3 or 4 hours, it was, relative that he was going to win because at one point he was up 29-3, so that pretty well set the table. But here's the 3 reasons why she lost.
Okay.
You can't, if you hit a home run in baseball, you have to cover all the bases. All she did was cover the first base and forgot about the people in the rural areas and the urban areas. You got to remember that you have other people in those big states that she was banking on. Secondly, she went to a gunfight with nothing in her gun. Where Trump went, he had enough ammunition to sink a battleship. And last but not least, they put her into a fire. You cannot prepare for anything but only 3 months of preparation, and that's why she lost. And Biden should get down and thank her, and for what she did, because he didn't want the humiliation of losing the battle, so he throws her in with the lines, and you saw what happened, and that's all I have to say.
Well, I don't know if he threw her in. I think it's more of a case of he was pushed out, but that would be my own interpretation of that, Eric. I thank you for your call. Let's move right along. 1-833-668-2577. Ola in Edmonton. Hi there, Ola.
Hi, how you doing?
I'm good, thank you. What do you think about what happened? How do you feel about it?
Still kind of in shock, but
okay. I
think one thing that we cannot forget to mention here is that there's a bit of a privileged that you kind of have to talk about, because I think anybody could have won this race against Trump because we know he's not qualified. But the fact that it is what it is. But I think the Democrat needs to do a lot of soul searching and figure out a way to get their message across to the people. Because we know Trump is not qualified. I mean, this is somebody who's not a moral person, to say the least. So, but people have voted, and it is what it is. We'll just hope that it can change course and lead the people, and hopefully that will reflect in the market and everything else. So.
Okay, let me ask you, Ola. You say, well, the Democrats have to learn how to get their message across to the people. What kind of message do you think they should have been delivering as opposed to the message that they were delivering? What do you think was wrong there?
I think you look at the market. The market is doing well. It's bounced back. But we don't hear much about that, and we keep hearing, I had more money in my pocket 4 years ago. That's not true, but it works because it's the talking point. So if they want to do a really good job, you need to start talking about what you're doing and the impact it's making in people's lives. And they didn't do that. And I think Joe Biden didn't leave the race on time. We all knew that he was not all right. But it's quite clear that he wasn't doing okay. But, that could be another factor. But and a lot of people have issues with that, right? How she came into the whole race.
Mm-hmm.
Some people could say maybe that's not democracy, but I mean, but they need to do a better job of because I vote NDP in this country, and some of the stands that the Liberal Party has taken can be a little too extreme. So we just need to figure out a way to just not put it on people like that, because the little people are still dealing with so many things in this country and in U.S.
Yeah.
So they just have to do a better way of just communicating the message. That's all.
Thanks, Ola, for the call from Edmonton today. Appreciate it. So Trump wins, Harris loses. Why do you think that happened, and how do you feel about it? 1-833-668-2577 is Talk Back. Love to hear from you today on this one. Let's pick it apart here, people. You are a postmortem on the U.S. election on News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talk Back on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Gathering your reaction to the results of the U.S. election. Let's go to Barry in Calgary. Hi, Barry.
First of all, my wife and I watched this thing last night. We were horrified. The first question that comes to my mind is the moral values of the citizens of the United States. To vote in a guy who's arguably a rapist and and a felon and clearly lies to your face. He's so blatantly ridiculous in some of the statements he makes, and I really wonder about the moral conscience of the U.S. The reason why I think he got elected was because he's not viewed as a politician. He's viewed as a street fighter, a guy who'll get down in the gutters and duke it out, and a businessman. Although I think he's a poor businessman, and a businessman. And I think that's what's happened here.
Okay. So if, just referencing all the things that you said in his moral failings, why do you think people were so willing to look beyond that and vote for him anyway?
I guess it comes down to the old, I guess money drives everything. I guess people are struggling and people are really in financial dire straits. And I suppose, I don't know, Ron, maybe money is trumping moral values. It's very confusing to me to look in at it. That's the only thing I can think of.
Yeah. That I don't like the guy, but I'm really struggling right now. I'm having a hard time paying my mortgage or paying the rent or putting food on the table. He's not in office. I can't blame him, but they've been in office, so I'm going to blame them.
Right.
And elect him. Maybe it's that.
Maybe it's that. I am concerned, very concerned about the moral conscience of the United States right now. I mean, the Republican Party has always taken, the right, we're going to do the right thing, and we've got the churches behind us and this. And then they allow a guy like this to become president of the United States. It's sort of frightening.
Yeah, twice. Okay, thank you. All right, thank you, Barry. Thank you. In Calgary. Keith in Calgary. Hi, Keith.
Today.
Yeah, hi, Keith.
Yeah, great to call in. Just got a couple of comments.
Sure.
And I think that this election win for Trump is one of the best things that's ever going to happen for Canada. First of all, it's going to do nothing but good for Alberta because he's made a promise to build the Keystone Pipeline. And, of course, which is in total contradiction to our federal government, which is essentially at war with Alberta.
Okay.
And, Alberta needs partnership. They don't need alienation. And everything that Danielle Smith has said lately, the last 2 days, has been absolutely accurate. Now, let me tell you why Kamala Harris lost and the Democrats lost the election. And by the way, I am a dual citizen. My ancestors moved to Canada in 1912. and I've lived in Canada my whole life.
Okay.
Number one, you can't change things overnight, okay? And while we all agree we'd like to have progressive laws, progressive economy, world views, to go to electric cars overnight is absolutely impossible. To do what Stephen Guilbeault wants to do is absolutely impossible. It's political suicide, and unfortunately, they don't care because they know they are going to lose the election. It's going to be so good when Pierre Poilievre is actually working with Donald Trump because they are of conservative values. They are values that built North America, the United States, and Canada. And it's the way that we are going to see our way back to a healthy environment as we progress forward. Donald Trump has the intelligence, the brains to help the economy to grow again. He understands what it takes to make things right. And from the perspective of Canada, we have a great business partner versus the federal government, which we should have a restraining order. In fact, we do. We have now our Sovereignty Act.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, the Sovereignty Act. Yeah. Look, we're going to talk about that another day later in the week. And we have been talking about what's been going on between Alberta and Ottawa in some detail. I must ask you, though, aren't you worried about things like tariffs, for example?
Well, let's face it. The world has tariffs. China is giving tariffs. I mean, tariffs are coming everywhere. And I think that overall, we all have to reevaluate our budgets and our ability to afford the cost of living. You'll notice that Trudeau just wanted to be another Me Too, immigrate millions of people into the country, which has now caused a problem, a shortage of housing, and caused an inflation to our housing market beyond reality. So this tariff thing has little relevance. We are already in an economic downfall.
Okay. We'll see. We'll see. Thank you. I don't think the tariffs are going to be irrelevant. I'm curious to see what actually comes of that. Thank you. Gathering a reaction to, the biggest story in the world. It's Donald Trump. He's the winner. Kamala Harris is the loser. Why? And how do you feel about it? When we come back on Talkback News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
On the results of the U.S. election, Trump wins. Harris loses. Why do you think it happened? How do you feel about it? Marcus in Halifax. Hi, Marcus.
How are you doing today?
I'm good, Marcus. Thank you.
I think this election shows that we're in an educational crisis here in North America because this was the least factual, least issues-based campaign ever. They keep getting less and less issues-based. And essentially, we've got a whole bunch of people who know nothing about the economy talking about how the economy affects their lives instead of simplifying the discussion and talking about it from actual working class people's perspective. We've got to drop all of that. We've got to go back to education. Really, in the States, neither of these two choices are that dramatically different. Neither of them takes a huge amount of funding out of the war budget. Neither of them puts a whole bunch of money into education. Largely, they do feel-good issues and not the real core issues of the States. I just think that people are so caught up in the emotional election that we just experienced because you got polarizing statements from the media and the candidates. And really, we didn't talk about or understand anything through the whole campaign, which is likely going to be the same thing in the Canadian campaign. The public needs to start demanding that all of our politicians do way better.
Okay. Yeah, maybe in a perfect world. But you say, they never addressed real core issues. What would you see as the real core issues?
Well, I mean, the state spends 10 times as much on war as they do on education. They're in the middle of a war in Israel that they're funding that essentially has a genocide case going in the International Criminal Court. The International Criminal Court has no real power. So, to me, these are the major world issues that are facing the states. And those things aren't actually honestly discussed. Instead, we talk about it from a should we or should we not support Israel position rather than breaking down the complexities of whether we should and why we should or should not support Israel.
Okay. So in the end, look, let me just ask you, why do you think Trump won and Harris lost?
Because people are desperate for change, and Harris does not represent change in any way, whereas Trump represents change. He keeps screaming about change all the time, and I think most average working Americans are desperate for change because they know they've been left behind, and the Democratic picture just doesn't include enough of them going forward. That's why you see all of these cities who are doing well or doing better than the country livers, right? They're voting with, hey, let's stick with what's going on now because it's working. But most people, it's not working for, so they want change. And the Democrats really don't offer any change language. Even if they say it, they don't actually achieve anything. So I think Trump shows I'm doing things differently, and that's what people want. I don't think a lot of people that voted for him actually support him as a human. They just want somebody who's going to break it down.
Okay, interesting analysis there. Thank you, Marcus. Calling from Halifax today. Taking your calls on your reaction to the U.S. election results. Trump wins, Harris loses. Why do you think it turned out this way? And how do you feel about it? 1-833-668-2577. The latest breaking news coming up next. This is Talk Back. More of your calls just ahead on News Radio.
Something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talk Back on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Gathering your reaction to the results of the U.S. election with Trump winning, Harris losing. Why did it happen? How does it make you feel? 1-833-668-2577. Eric up next. Go ahead, Eric. Hi.
Hey, good day, Rob.
Hi, Eric.
Yesterday, I stated that I thought Harris would win, and that was based on the gentleman that was batting 1,000 until yesterday with his scientific methods. I'm pleasantly surprised that Trump won, and actually, I'm quite happy that he did. And the reason why is I look at his policies when he was there for 4 years. Put aside all this moralistic, self-righteous people that talk about his character flaws. What I say to that, if anybody lives in a glass house, you'd be the first one to throw a stone. We know his sins. Look in the mirror and ask yourself what your sins are. So having put that aside, he made America self-sufficient in energy. It helped the economy in terms of the price of gas. He also, this is from Jeff Rubin, a world-respected economist. He brought a lot of the offshore industries back to the United States. He had the economy going well. Whether that was all his decisions, probably not. There was a lot of people, and he may have had very good people. Obviously, he did. I'm just really tired of all these self-righteous people that call in and talk about the flaws of his character, rather than talking about policy. So I'm really glad, Rob, that maybe now we can put all that stuff aside, all that detraction aside, and really start criticizing what should be criticized, and that is his policies and how they're hindering or helping the American people. I'll close with this very quickly. I used to hate Trump the first year he was in. I hated him, and I only listened to what's been termed mainstream media. And then I read 3 books, one of them by Andrew McCarthy. He's a federal prosecutor in the States. By no means a Trump fan, still not, but at least he was fair in his book. It's called Ball of Collusion. And then Jeff Rubin wrote a book called How the Middle Class Gets Screwed. And then the third book I read was The Control Oligarchs by Seamus Brenner. And reading those books, I started to think, and I started listening to other sources of news. And what I used to do was listen to mainstream, listen to independent journalists, and then I would give it a while to settle. And then I would see whose context bore fruition. And let me tell you, sometimes I was very disappointed in what's been termed mainstream media. that doesn't give a clear pass to the independent broadcasters either.
All right, Aaron, I'm going to wrap up our. Fair enough. I'm not cutting you off. We're just really busy today. I hope you can appreciate that. Thank you for your call, and I'm sure we'll talk again soon. The historian you mentioned with the sterling record on predicting elections, Lichtman is his name. Not batting 1,000. He did have a pretty good track record, though. 9 out of the last 10, he was wrong on Bush and Gore in 2000. But he said, well, George Bush stole that election. That's what he said. Ricky in Calgary. Ricky. Hi there, Ricky.
Hi. Thanks for taking my call.
You're welcome.
The self-righteous people. My point is, we get all our information from the media. And, of course, we've been watching the story on Trump. And, again, it's been proven he's racist. He's a liar. He has no respect for women. And he's got all these indictments against him. Okay, so we've heard all this, from the media. This is how we get our information. So what I'm actually feeling and visualizing is that the United States people have voted for this kind of president that has this thing, these darkness on. And when I saw the votes coming in, that the United States probably has a problem with racism. And, these lies that he's been telling, I don't know how they've been buying all that, but I'm very disappointed. I'm sad about that he's now back being a president again. And I think we're in for a bit of a ride on this one. And,
okay. But here's what other people are saying. Even liberal Democrats are saying, with I would say a certain amount of astonishment, given all of those things that you cited, especially dealing with race. Okay, why did he grab a larger share of, say, the Hispanic vote? Why did he grab? I'm not saying. I'm saying Harris still won the Hispanic vote overwhelmingly, but he received more of the Hispanic vote than he did before. And the same with the African American vote. How do you explain something like that? What do you think is behind that? I'd be curious to know something like that.
I believe that Trump has, with his people that answer to him, are in the areas listening to people complaining. And he's taking, they don't want all these immigrants coming into the United States. Mm-hmm. And everyone's, people complain a lot. My groceries are too high.
Sure.
And so Trump is writing all this down, and he's going on that the government is doing wrong. People can't get food on the table. So I think it's the American people that are grumbling and complaining, which they,
But I think you're discounting I think you're discounting the severity of how people felt about that. The cost of living, inflation, financial struggles that working class people are having, and concerns about not immigration, but illegal immigration.
Right.
We can't really discount that, can we?
What we can do, how do you run a campaign? This is what the people are complaining about. And so he loads up all his weaponry on all these complaints that people are complaining about the Democrats. And they're blaming it on the Democrats. There are costs in running a country. And by cutting taxes, we're talking about, things that need to be addressed that aren't going to be addressed. And it really is about the complaining people that need to be addressed. And this thing, the indictments is what I'm
So Ricky, I just want to kind of wrap up on this conversation. I have to stop here. You're not happy about the outcome, right?
No, I'm not. I'm terribly upset.
Okay, fair enough. Gotcha. You're upset. I appreciate that, sir. I appreciate that. I'm sure you're not alone. A lot of people, a lot of Americans upset today, I bet. 1-833-668-2577. Talk back. Talking about the U.S. election. Trump's back. 45 is 47. This is News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talk Back on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Gathering reaction to the U.S. election with Emerson. Hello, Emerson. You're on the air. Go ahead. What's your opinion here?
Well, first of all, I'll start off by saying I am so thrilled that Donald Trump won. I'll tell you why. The man gets things done. When the verdict was issued last night that he became the 47th president, the people spoke loud and clear, not guilty on all charges. And even if there was some significance behind these charges, it wasn't enough for them to preclude him from becoming president of the United States. When I get friends calling me this morning, laughing at me and saying, oh, yeah, he's president, but he's going to be in the penitentiary, I had the biggest laugh. I said, do you understand how the system works? He's president. Department of Justice responds to him. This is going to go away quietly, and it has to go away quietly because the United States of America has to move forward. Listen, if there's one good thing that Biden can do before he finally leaves the White House, he should just say, okay, guys, drop it. We need to move forward. Enough is enough. Whoever made the decision to go after Donald Trump, that's the person that should be accountable for Kamala Harris's failures. Because number one, she's underqualified. Number two, she totally was in a balloon. She didn't know what day it was, laughing uncontrollably. And I'll tell you, these people that call in and say, oh, he has a bad character, he doesn't like women. Really? Well, guess what? A lot of women voted for him last night. Just because you don't like someone who's successful, don't tell me that he should not be able to run for president. The guy is super smart. He's nothing short of a genius. And I'll tell you something.
Really?
The only one comment I have to make.
Okay.
Yesterday it was Kamala Harris that went down. And 3 months from now, it'll be Justin Trudeau that goes down. And I'll be even happier. And that's all I have to say. Thank you so
You've
much.
said it. You've said it. Thank you. Yeah, you're welcome. You're welcome, Emerson. Very happy, ecstatic, overjoyed of a Trump victory. I don't know if the Canadian election will be held in 3 months. Next spring, maybe. Next spring. I wouldn't rule that out. Ernie is up next. Ernie's calling from Kitchener. Hi, Ernie.
Hey, Rob. Did you crush that whole pizza last night, or how'd that go?
I'm sorry, sir?
Did you crush that whole pizza last night, or how'd that? I think
No,
the pizza on your-
you saw my tweets about the pizza. Now, I did have a couple of slices. It's kind of a newsroom tradition, on election night. You have the boss would get you pizza, right? So the boss around here is my wife, and she brought me home a pizza for election night. So yeah, it was good. Yeah.
Just when I was watching, I was like, man, I could use that right now. Like, thanks, Rob. But anyways, just to get back on the point here.
Yeah.
I think a huge part of what happened yesterday, and it's more like just kind of like facts that I'm kind of digressing here, is the calling him Hitler all the time, calling the supporters garbage, he's racist, all this stuff. It was not about her policies or who she was. She didn't present herself well. It was more or less just about, we just got to make them remember who this guy is. Like, let's push this on this. And that was the main course and spot that her campaign took. And the other thing that I've just noticed too is like the fact that he did Joe Rogan, and Joe Rogan's voted. Remember, he's never voted Republican until this time. He's never endorsed anybody. He's got the number one viewership of podcasts in the world, and Donald goes on there. I think regardless of if she wouldn't have done well or not, it really, really hurt her campaign by not even entertaining that thing there. Looking at the viewership yesterday, CNN and Fox, they had about Fox won the viewership, just basically looking up, and then I'm sure some other sites will see different numbers. But a podcast that Patrick Bet-David had, he's already got 5 million views on his podcast during last night. People are they're not trusting these sources anymore, regardless of what station you want to say.
Yeah.
But
very interesting. Yeah. I would say, it's a lot of people are pointing that out. really kind of a new era for the media, certainly.
Right, and it's going to be really interesting
and the influence of the media, of that new media, on our politics. Right?
Exactly, and how it's going to impact Canada. Like I don't know. I had a hard time watching CBC last night. I switched between CNN, Fox, and I did watch some CBC, and then I went to MSNBC too. And that one, it was just extreme. They're all extreme in their all different areas. You can see what they're pointing to, but I can understand why people are not trusting these sources anymore, regardless of what station you want to say. And also, to the average age of CNN, Fox, and MSNBC, the median age is 70 years old, Rob.
Oh, really?
So these younger votes, and Trump too. Trump gained in every single category, I believe, like with Hispanics, with blacks. I'm not sure if he won the women vote or if he got higher on that one. Not that he won all those categories, but he jumped up significantly.
But his percentage in those categories improved.
So I believe just the slamming of everything else, really, it's like you can see why they lost. And am I happy he won? I am, but I'm more or less I always like to figure out what happened, and that's what I saw from last night.
Okay, Ernie, thank you for your call. Yeah, bye. Let's stop. Be right back. If you're on the line, you'll get on the air before the top of the hour. My promise to you. Talkback hour number 1. As we talk about the biggest story in the world, the U.S. election, Trump emerges victorious. He will become president of the United States again. Kamala Harris did not perform as well as Joe Biden did 4 years ago, did not perform as well as Hillary Clinton did 8 years ago. Why has this happened? That's what we're trying to figure out with your help. Give us a call. It's Talkback on News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Asking for your reaction to the U.S. election. Jay in Kitchener. Hi, Jay.
Well, better the devil you know than the devil you don't.
Okay.
Right? So at least with him, we know he won't be reelected because he can't be.
Okay.
See what happens at the end of 4 years.
Right.
So even if people are a little wound up, we know 4 years from now it will be different. So.
Okay, Jay. So you think people looked at these two candidates, Trump and Harris, and people, came to the conclusion, well, I may not like the guy, but I know what I'm going to get with the guy, as opposed to Harris, who's kind of more of an unknown?
I think they were more afraid of another people getting all wound up again if he didn't get reelected.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Jay. Let's go to Bernie is in Mississauga. Bernie, probably not happy today. I don't imagine, Bernie.
No, I was disappointed, but I checked that through my life. I've had a lot of disappointments as far as my political views go. But I'm just saying, I think that they got control. The Republicans got control of the Senate and the House too. They did.
They control the Senate, the House. They're still working that out. I don't think the House has been decided yet. But they're leading. The Republicans are leading, right?
Yeah. If they win the House too, that'd be a complete dictatorship. So. It doesn't bode very good for countries.
Well, I don't think you call it a dictatorship. They used to just call that a supermajority, did they not? So.
Yeah, but I thought that like Donald Trump in there, it's going to be a super dictatorship because the Republicans already bowed down to him. The ones that built him up the most were the evangelists in the States. They put a pair of wings on his back, and they were propaganda to the people for years that he was a Masonic figure. So I think it bodes very good for Israel because he'll be a great friend of Israel. Whatever their intentions are in the Middle East, and it bodes very bad for Iran because I see down the road that Donald Trump will give in to Israel's demands.
Yeah, I would agree with you. It's probably not good news for Iran, but I think I think a lot of centrist people would say, well, if it's not good for Iran, that's good.
Yeah, but a lot say when ignorance is
it's Iran who has been funding these. It's Iran who has been funding Hamas. It's Iran who's been funding Hezbollah. It's Iran who is funding the Houthis in Yemen. It's Iran who's been funding all these proxy organizations, right?
I got a message for the American people. When Christ hung on the cross, he looked down to people and he said, "Forgive them, for they know not what they did." They're going to regret it.
I'm going to regret it. Okay. All right, Bernie.
The
Thank
world
you.
will regret it. Bye.
Well, okay. Thank you. That's not a very cheery way to end our conversation, but we do have to end it there. And we have to end this hour of Talk Back here, but there's another hour ahead. And lots of time for you to have your say as we continue getting your reaction to the results of the U.S. election here on Talk Back on News Radio.
It's time to talk back
on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Call now
And have your say.
1-833-668-2577.
Hour number 2 of Talk Back here on News Radio. I'm Rob Snow, gathering your reaction to the results of the U.S. election. Trump is the winner. Harris is the loser. Why did it happen, and how do you feel about everything that happened? 1-833-668-2577. Susan calling from Waterloo. Hi, Susan. Nope, I don't think Susan's there. Let's go to Aaron in Ottawa. Hi, Aaron.
Hello.
Hi, Aaron.
You have to bear with me. I apologize. I'm just getting over a bit of a lung infection here.
That's okay. Sorry to hear that.
I'm absolutely ecstatic about this, to be honest with you. I think where it went wrong is they actually were focused too much on the wrong issues. And I think the side that won focused on the right issues, like the economy, safety, security, things like that. I don't understand where they assume that women's rights have been taken away. I mean, I apologize that they feel like that, but at the end of the day, I don't see anything that was taken away from them that they hadn't already had before. I mean, abortion is a big topic, I understand. I'm not going to pretend to know everything about it, but at the end of the day, that's, again, I'm not a woman, so I can't very well say anything against it, but I don't see any other rights that have been taken away.
Okay, well, I mean, that was a huge court ruling 2 years ago on the reversal of Roe v. Wade. I know Trump and Vance and the Republicans will say, well, we'll make it it's going to be a state issue from now on. It'll be up to the individual states to make their own law. But if you're a woman in one of those states that made it very, in a dozen states, they have criminalized access to abortion. It's against the law. And in another dozen states, they've made it almost impossible to access abortion.
There should only be one reason that you have an abortion, and I'm not trying to ruffle feathers, but there should only be one reason you have an abortion is if something is going to be wrong with the child. If you chose,
okay, well, that's your opinion, and other people will have other opinions, and I don't want to get totally off track and make this a conversation about abortion. Okay, that's a totally other 2-hour talk back that we can have on that someday. But back to why you think Trump won, Harris lost on the issues, right? You think she didn't run an issues-focused campaign?
Too busy worrying about what he was doing. Okay. I think he played a strategic game. I think it's always a strategic game. He admitted on the Joe Rogan podcast the first time around he wasn't sure what he was actually doing. He wasn't as equipped maybe as he should have been. I think people need to stop being so sensitive when it comes to the name calling, calling people out. I think we need somebody with a strong backbone. I think even in Canada here, we need somebody with a strong backbone as well. So I think it's just a matter of sensitivity. Too many people are way too sensitive for things that are being said. They're not worried about what is actually being done.
Okay. All right.
And
fair enough.
I was against him at first, 8 years or whatever. I was against him at first, so.
And you've come around. Okay, that's 100%. Interesting. 100%. Okay. Thank you, Aaron. You've had your say. We're going to move along here. Susan, we had reconnected with Susan at Waterloo. Thanks for calling, Susan.
Yes. First of all, I think that it's not so much what Trump, I guess it is what Trump did. We know Trump. It's the devil you know and the devil you don't know, and they went with the devil they know. But he stuck with the border, the immigration, and the economy. And they don't care that he's a vile, misogynistic liar, which he's all those things. And he's not a very good businessman, and he bankrupts everything he touches. But he is going to hurt Ukraine. He's going to pull out their funding. Putin has not congratulated him yet, and he said he won't because of the United States funding them. But you got to look at why she didn't win. It can't solely be on color. It can't solely be on being a woman. She ran on social issues, and you're never going to win an election on social issues. Why do Democrats lose so much? Because of that. I'm a liberal. You cut me open, I bleed red and white.
Okay.
But I'm not going to vote for Trudeau this time. I would not have voted for Donald Trump. I would have voted for her. But he didn't run on social issues. And he's going to hurt the people that hurt him. He's going to release all those J6 idiots that are in prison. And yes, he tried to overturn democracy, but they didn't care. They didn't care. The other big point here, Rob, and then I'll get off, is that the United States education system lacks a lot. And yes, he loves the uneducated, and there's a lot of them. They can't even find Hudson Bay on a map. They can't.
Okay.
Half my family lives there. Thank you.
Okay. Well, yeah, I don't know if we stopped 100 people on the streets of Waterloo, how many of them can find Hudson Bay? Okay, thank you. Let's move along. Steve in Calgary. Steve. Hi there, Steve.
Oh, hey, how's it going today?
Busy around here today, Steve. Actually. Lots to take in. Lots to talk about.
So, hey, I just want to throw my 2 cents in.
Go right ahead.
For Harris, for the only thing I thought that she thought was going for, but I think for all the celebrities she put on there, right? And I guess, right, if you want to listen to their music and you want to watch their movies, that's one thing. But if you have a whole bunch of people up there, and if they're trying to sway the way you vote, but at the end of the day, for a lot of those people, they have no problem for their money, right? Like if they have to get food or for their housing, right? Right, things like that. So, like a lot of it, I think they're not completely 100% down to earth with a lot of the people who are struggling out there with stuff. So I just think at the end, I think that kind of came back. For Trump, I know he had super billionaire on there, Musk, but yeah. Anyway, for my 2 cents, that's all I wanted to throw in. Thanks so much for getting me on the air. Have yourself a good day.
You're welcome. Steve, thank you so much for your call. Yeah, the celebrity endorsements did not help the Harris campaign. I mean, there were a lot of them. Taylor Swift, Bruce Springsteen, Beyonce, Oprah Winfrey. It was one after another. Didn't help Hillary Clinton either 8 years ago. I don't know how effective those celebrity endorsements are. I guess you'd rather have them instead of not have them, but what is the benefit of having them in the end? It didn't really help the Harris campaign overcome MAGA. 1-833-668-2577. Talk back on News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talk Back on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Glenn in Waterloo, what do you think about that U.S. election? Glenn, go ahead. Hello, Glenn? No Glenn. Okay. Joe in Kitchener. Hi, Joe.
Hey, Rob. How you doing?
I'm good, Joe. Thanks for calling. What do you think?
Good. Well, you know what? This is what I think. If I lived in the United States of America, I would have voted for Kamala Harris, okay? Because I would never vote for a guy like Trump because of the way he treats women, all the indictments he's had against him, his overall criminal record. That's one end of it. But I really sincerely believe America just wasn't ready to vote in a woman president of the United States. They just weren't ready for it. And also the fact that she was a woman of color. That didn't matter that she's smart, intelligent, just a nice person that cares about everybody. That's what I think, Rob.
Okay. Thank you, Joe. Let's go to Kevin, calling from Calgary. Hi, Kevin. You're up next. Kevin, go ahead. What's your opinion here, Kevin?
Thanks, Rob. She made a critical mistake.
Okay.
When she was asked what she would do differently that has occurred over the past 4 years with Biden, she said outright, I wouldn't change a thing.
Wouldn't change a thing, yeah.
Yeah, she said that right on national TV. So when a country's crying for change and you say there's not a thing that comes to mind that I would change that Biden's done over the last 4 years, boom, there's a big hole you just shot in your foot.
Right.
And that to me was the beginning of the downfall. She could have all the celebrities she wants, but when she said she wasn't going to change a thing and the country was crying for change, well, the country got change.
Right. So that was, they used to have the TSN turning point. You think that might have been a TSN turning point there?
Absolutely. It's there's many turning points, but that's got to be the big one where she said that she wouldn't change a thing. Well, that's not what the people wanted to hear. Maybe they wanted to hear that on daytime TV. Maybe that's her audience, but it's the nighttime folks, the blue-collar folks that made this happen. That's just my opinion, but when you say that you wouldn't change a thing, well, maybe she's protecting her boss, but that's not what the people wanted. And you got to give the people what they want, or you're not going to be the president. And that's what happened.
Maybe she was doing that out of, I don't know, loyalty, right?
Yeah,
to Joe Biden, maybe, or something like that. I don't know.
That's what they were saying when they're trying to clean up that mess. But ultimately, if you want to be the president, you've got to give the people some information that what would you do different? And when you say not a thing, there's got to be something you would do different.
Right. Okay. All right. Thank you. Thank you, Kevin. Yep. Gotcha. John, up next on the U.S. election. Hi, John. What do you think about what happened here?
Hey, Rob. How you doing today?
I'm good, John. Thank you for calling, sir. Give me your take on this.
Quick comment for Joe from Kitchener a couple of calls back. I think that's a bunch of crap. I think the state's more than ready for a woman black president. I don't think they really care. They just want someone that can do the job. We've had women leaders before in the world. Margaret Thatcher in the UK was a brilliant leader. No one cared she was a woman. They cared she was tough and got the job done. I don't think that's the thing at all. If Kamala had been the right person, they would have voted her in. And to top it all off, I think Trump got in just on the simple fact that he's a guy that gets things done. Kamala, the DNC, everything else, all they care about is making themselves richer. Look at Nancy Pelosi, worth $300 million. When she came into the Senate, she was worth nothing. Now all of a sudden she's worth $300 million.
Right. Well, come on, let's get real here. I mean, you don't think Trump wants to get richer?
Oh, he'll get richer. Doesn't matter where he is. He doesn't give a shit.
Okay.
All right. You know what? They just got somebody that's going to get things done. Let him drain the swamp. The checks are going to stop for Zelensky now, which is a good thing. We should stop bailing those guys.
Is that a good thing, though? Is that a good thing?
Dude, why? They're getting rich off us sending money. How many countries are out there collecting money off their taxpayers to give to Canada?
So what consequences, look, I'm just going to play devil's advocate here. What consequences should Russia face for illegally invading its neighbor?
Well, I think NATO should put their foot down. I think the UN should get in there, not just give money to blank checks to the Ukraine. That's doing nothing. Come on. Putin doesn't give a shit.
All right, you can't say that. Let the first one go, John, but can't let the second one go, buddy. Kind of two strikes, you're out on that word. It's just one of the ones you can't stay on the radio. Sorry about that. So we'll have to move along. Why don't we stop here? Pick it up. And we have some lines available here. 1-833-668-2577. 1-833-668-2577. I know, John. I know. It sometimes just slips out. I'm a little sleep deprived myself today. Up late last night watching that whole thing. Lots of time to take your calls, though. Get your take on everything that's happened in the last 24 hours. It's a consequential moment for the world. What do you think about it? 1-833-668-2577. Join the discussion on TalkBack.
something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talk Back on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
We are continuing to gather your reaction to the results of the U.S. election, with Trump winning, Harris not winning. Why do you think that happened? How do you feel about it? 1-833-668-2577. Another half hour or so here for us. Mike in Calgary. Mike. Hi, Mike.
Hey, I think it's funny that we see, or that, number one, don't ever talk about politics or religion at a party, because people get pretty fired up, and we sure are seeing it today on your show. Yeah, I think the thing to remember is that, if we had someplace like Australia or the EU, they're looking at us after we re-elected, Trudeau, after the SNC-Lavalin, COVID, just everything that they see. I think what we have to remember up here in Canada is that a lot of the information we're getting is secondhand, and it really depends on what news channel we're watching as to what we believe and what we're hearing. I think that the people in the States were tired of having the same status quo. I think during the recession, or during now, the hard economy, everybody's looking for a solution, and they're looking for somebody that can take them out of it. And, when Kamala Harris said she's in charge of the border for the last 4 years, but no, she's never been there, but she's also never been to Europe, that just shows if you're in charge of something, you got to go there. You got to find out what's going on. And I think we need to stop and remember that the people in the States voted the way they did, and it's not based on what someone's been accused of, or 32 indictments or whatever it is from the last group that was up. It's really about who can do the job and how well they can do the job. You don't ask for a criminal background check when you have a heart surgeon do surgery on you.
All right. Interesting analysis, Mike. Thank you. Very, very good call there. Mike, Sam in Stratford, lovely Stratford today. Hi, Sam.
Hi, Rob. How are you?
I'm good. Sam, how are you?
Good. I've never called into your show. I'm actually a small business owner, and I'm just driving in my truck listening.
Well, I appreciate that.
Yeah, I just find it interesting, the this, the that, but remember, we live in Canada, so my main concern is how the U.S. election is going to affect Canada.
Okay.
And if they say, if President Trump says with this 10% tariff on all Canadian goods going into the U.S., what's that going to do to Canada? I'm not as concerned with the U.S. to this, to that. I'm more concerned, being a Canadian, what's going to affect us. That's all.
So with the possibility of tariffs, is that a concern for you?
Well, of course it's a concern. I mean,
yeah.
If they were going to put a 10%, they're our largest trading partner, I do believe. Yeah, Rob?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I looked it up today, sir. $500 billion a year.
Okay, so if you're talking $500 billion that we import, and if they do put a 10% tariff on all our goods, I mean, I'm not an economist. I'm just a small business owner. Now, I don't import anything into the U.S. I do have some peers that do, and do a lot of business throughout North America. But I think it can turn our country into a bit of a tailspin. So that's probably my main concern, as opposed to, the Roe v. Wade. And obviously, I don't want to bury my head in the sand, but I don't know. We live in Canada. We don't live in Middle America. So that's my main concern.
Yeah, very good. Very good points. Thank you for calling from Stratford today. Yeah, $500 billion is the dollar value of our exports to the United States. 77% of everything we export all over the world, 77% of it goes to the United States. And he's talking tariffs, ripping up trade deals, taking a really protectionist, tough stand. Now, Harris voted against the last free trade deal and had big problems with it too. We could pick up on that if you want, or go in any other direction. U.S. elections the topic.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talk Back on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
The U.S. election outcome is the topic of the day. We're back on the phones with John in Calgary. Hi, John.
Hey, Rob. Great show as always. Thank you. There are
Thank you.
3 points, in my opinion, as to why the vote went the way it did. Number one, Kamala Harris and the Democrats have been in power for 12 of the last 16 years, and just like Justin Trudeau, it's really hard to describe yourself as new when you've got the weight of history on you. So regardless of the truth, she was always swimming upriver. Looking at the Republicans, the first point is for those people less educated, protectionism, protecting the borders, these are topics that people love to vote for. They're mostly meaningless. I don't buy the tariffs conversation at all. They're mostly meaningless, but they get votes. And for the educated in America, I would suggest that the Republican policies are actually better for the country. And so people will hold their nose on someone they don't like, knowing full well he's just the figurehead of a massive infrastructure. But the Democrats, I think, we're going to lose anyway, swimming upstream. And Donald Trump and his team correctly hit both ends of the uneducated and the more educated.
Okay, very interesting. John, thank you. Siva calling on the air now. Siva,
Anyway,
hi.
So, yeah. Politically, we may win some, lose some, right? Doesn't matter. But what matters is the spirit. Thank you. Yeah.
All right, Siva. I'm just going to put you on hold and move along to the next caller until you get yourself sorted out there. Paul in Kitchener. Paul. Hello, Paul.
Afternoon, Rob. Thanks for taking my call. I just wanted to throw my 2 cents worth in. I'm kind of laughing at everybody being surprised at the outcome, but in a way not. I think the biggest loser in all this is going to be the mainstream media because they've been feeding us with false information for so long. And for instance, that it was a tie all the way along. It was going to be neck and neck. And I've got family that lives down in the U.S., and we were actually down a couple weeks ago, and that was a far cry from what we saw. We Trump signs everywhere, and even I could talk for hours about all the court cases. I've heard people talk about him being a convicted felon. We could talk for hours about all those court cases that he's been through in the last year and how bogus they are. If you look at the law behind them and how they're doing it, it's just a very bizarre setup. And I'm not sure, Harris just didn't do anything. She a couple weeks ago or a couple months ago, she was the worst vice president there was, and they were looking at Joe to replace her. And then after we saw his display on the debates, she was the second best thing since sliced bread. So it's just very confusing. I think a lot of people saw different things from Trump through the different podcasts and the interviews that he did that Harris wouldn't do, and people are starting to realize that he's not the greatest guy, but he's not as bad as what he's made out to be by the media.
Okay, interesting. Thank you, Paul in Kitchener, for your 2 cents there. Charlie, Grey Highlands. Charlie.
Bob, Donald Trump is a world leader. The United States is the biggest power in the world, and we need a world leader like Donald Trump. He has to stand up, and he got to stand up for the little guy, the rich guy, everybody. He does a great job. He did a great job the last time. Look at Korea, Rocket Boy, getting ready to shoot missiles. He put a stop to him, and he's back in there now making more missiles, and all these other countries like Iran taking over little countries. And the same with the battle going on between Israel and the Hamas. I mean, Israel was attacked, and if Trump was around, he'd take it apart for it. They were attacked. We need a leader like Donald Trump because he's a world leader, and we need a leader for the most powerful country in the world. And that's what we need, and we're too bad we couldn't get a leader in Canada with some push or little balls or something, but we got a wimp in Canada now, Mr. Trudeau.
All right, Charlie.
You hear me, Rob?
I hear you just fine, Charlie. Thank you. We're going to move along, though. Let's go to Kyle in Cochrane. Kyle. Hi there, Kyle.
Yeah, hey there. Thanks for taking my call.
You're welcome.
I just had 2 points. One of them I'm echoing from a previous caller. Focusing on social issues should be government suicide. To me, social issues are just for just that, social people to fix properly. It's my job to tell my uncle that what he's saying, or my grandfather, what he's saying is not acceptable. To have my government focus solely on that issue is a moot point. I need my economy fixed. I need houses affordable, food available and at a good cost, taxes low. That's the platform that people want to see from their government, economic issues. I think that's what the Republican Party focused on. Secondly, any party that's getting close to the World Economic Forum, the WEF, with Klaus Schwab, really concerns me. The movement from shareholder to stakeholder capitalism is quite a scary idea, to remove the free market capitalism we're currently seeing removed. It removes the chances of anybody succeeding any further that we have.
Okay, I got you on the first part. You kind of lost me on the second part. More maybe me than you, Kyle. Thank you. I'm going to stop here, and then we'll fit some more calls in. If you're on hold, you will get on the air before the top of the hour. 1-833-668-2577. 1-833-668-2577. Talk back. The election in the U.S., big topic today. Give us a call. Join the conversation. Lots of time left. This is News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talk Back on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
As we continue to get your reaction to the results of the U.S. election, Trump wins again. Not a good night for the Democrats. Kamala Harris speaking in, a little more than an hour, I believe 4 o'clock Eastern time. We expect some kind of concession speech from Kamala Harris. Your thoughts on the election? Why did it happen? How do you feel about it? All that kind of stuff. Ken, Calgary. Hi, Ken.
Yes, Rob?
Yes.
I think there are two types of people that vote for Trump. One is the educated that are cowards, because if the Democrats won, there was going to be riots. And the other set is the uneducated who can't see further than their nose. That's my opinion.
Okay, so let me ask you, how do you feel about how you think this is a good outcome for the United States, for the world, for Canada? You think it's a bad situation? What do you think?
No, but time will tell. That's my own opinion. I don't know about the economics and the trade and all this stuff. I only know of behavior. And there would definitely be riots that would take place. And the Americans are afraid. They're cowards. They're not able to stand up to the riots. So that educated set decide we do it in the case of peace for the immediate. And the uneducated, they don't even care about democracy and all that. They don't care.
Okay, Ken, I appreciate your call today. Having a little trouble understanding you. Let's go to Jamie in Calgary. Jamie, thanks for calling. Jamie.
Yeah, hi. I'm a first-time caller here.
I appreciate that.
I'm over the moon ecstatic, but
you are okay.
I guess a huge indicator is the stock market has gone completely crazy up today.
Yep.
That's the pure form of if it's negative news, it goes the other way. The Democrats are terrified of Trump. They threw everything at him. They indicted him 1 million times on ginned-up charges. Everybody knows that. Dragging him through the court. They impeached him twice. Somebody tried to kill him twice, and here he is. A man is a fighter, and the public, the democratic system always corrects itself. Okay? This world has gone so politically correct, it's unbelievable. You can't sneeze without getting criticized. And so much of what he said that people, oh my God, I agree with. And it showed you. The people agree. They hear it. They're not deaf. So all these little crybabies out there, this is reality.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. You're a happy man.
Wow, the world's a better place today. I mean, they got open borders. Okay. They're full of it. I mean, the border's closed. What are you talking about? What is it, 20 million people came in or something?
Yeah, there's the number that they throw out. I don't know what the real number is. Who knows what the real number is, right? Yeah.
They're pouring in.
It's a big issue. I mean, the two top issues, I think it's clear for everyone now, it was the economy and immigration. Those were the two big issues in that campaign.
You got to have a border or you're not a country, okay?
Right.
And then he says, I'm going to deport all the illegals, and everybody has a heart attack. Oh, my God. Well, they're illegal. It's like robbing a bank or running a red light or anything. There's rules. You just can't come in. Yeah. Okay. See you, man.
Thank you. Happy Jamie in Calgary. Thank you so much. I mean, it's been settled for the most part. And I mean, Donald Trump's going to be the president again. I would just say this. Let me just maybe put my own 2 cents in here. I haven't really offered much. I'm just curious what this means for Canada and our politics. I think there are a lot of lessons in here for the Trudeau Liberals. I like to come back to this because it's soon going to be our turn, okay? There's going to be an election in Canada within a year. And the two big issues, as I just said to Jamie, are also big issues here. The cost of living and immigration. Two really hot issues in Canada right now. And I don't think the Liberals here, like the Democrats in the United States, I don't think they have a good handle on how to try and pitch to Canadians whatever their solutions happen to be for those two issues, on the cost of living, on rents and on mortgage payments and on the cost of food and paying for the basics. They're trying to say, well, it's not really that bad. And in fact, it's getting better for you. But like a lot of Americans, a lot of Canadians don't think it's getting any better. Just the other day, the new campaign director for the Liberal Party, remember the old guy quit and they brought in a new guy, he put something out on Twitter that suggested, it's really not that bad. When you look at the Canadian economy, it's really not that bad. And that's just not the experience of many Canadians, trying to convince them that it's really not that bad. That's not going to work. And also the Liberals are banking on this, that things are going to get better. Or that things are better already. Interest rates are coming. You hear this from them. Interest rates are coming down. Inflation has cooled off. I think they're hoping that by the spring of next year or the fall of next year, you're going to feel better about where you are and your household finances. I think they're way off base. They are dreaming in Technicolor to think that a lot of Canadians in a year are going to be thinking, wow, I'm so much better off now. How many mortgages are going to renew between now and then? Millions. And the people who are renewing are not getting 2% on a mortgage. It's not happening. What are the rents going to be in Calgary and Kitchener and in Halifax for apartments? You think they're coming down by April of next year or October of next year, or food prices are coming down? The deputy governor of the Bank of Canada was on Parliament Hill last week. And she was asked about prices for everyday goods that we all need. And she was asked last week by an MP on Parliament Hill, are prices going to come down, Deputy Governor? And Carolyn Rogers, the second in command of the Bank of Canada, you know what she said? She said, no, prices are not coming down. They're not coming down. And she said, if I told you they were coming down, I would be giving you false hope. That's what she said. And I think the Liberals have a lot of false hope right now. And on immigration, it's the same story. They have admitted to their failings on that file, but do you really think that whole mess is going to be cleaned up by next year? Look, if anything, it could get worse. Now, you think about this scenario. What if the Trump administration goes ahead and plans to deport millions of people who are in the United States illegally? Do you think some of these people are just going to... Where do you think they're going to go? Where do you think they're going to go? Jason Kenney, the former immigration minister, former Alberta premier, told the National Post in a recent interview, some of those people are going to try and come here. Does the government of Canada have a plan for this? Or are we just going to get another Sunny Ways tweet from the Prime Minister on that? I'm Rob Snow. This is Now You Know. It's News Radio.
Something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talk Back on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
So, David, how much sleep did you actually get last night?
Oh, I was good for about 4 hours.
4 hours? Yeah. So I worked until about midnight last week. I was doing last night I was doing the radio thing.
Yeah.
We had a special show last night. Yeah, it wasn't back-breaking labor or anything, but it was it was a long day. It was a long day.
Yeah.
And then got off the radio, did a little, watched some of the coverage on cable news a little while after that. And then I think I finally nodded off at about 1:30 in the morning. You try to sleep, though, on a night like that. Comes around once every 4 years, and the brain is just buzzing, right?
Oh yeah, for sure.
Put the brain to rest. Like, why did Trump win? Why did Harris lose? Why did she do so poorly? Why did she do worse than Biden? Why did she do worse than Clinton? And then you go down that rabbit hole. You start trying to figure that out. Would Joe Biden have done any better if he had stayed in there? All of this crazy stuff. They made some mistakes, though. I don't think. They kept her out of sight for a while, right?
Yeah.
I wonder about that decision and if that backfired. One of the callers a few weeks ago said she's been too staged managed. Should have done some more interviews or news conferences. I don't know if that would have worked or not. I'm sure this is all going to be part of the great postmortem that the Democrats are going to do after this defeat. Would it have made a difference if Joe Biden had dropped out earlier? Given her more runway, more time to prepare, have a nomination, right? All of these things. But I'll tell you what, her attacks on Trump, they just didn't seem to matter. Calling Hitler didn't work. Saying he's a threat to democracy didn't work. None of that worked. Calling him a fascist didn't work. Calling an authoritarian dictator, none of that seemed to land. And I mean, look at the results. Maybe she should have gone on Joe Rogan's show. Or maybe it was a campaign doomed from the start, no matter the candidate, because the Democrats had to try and defend immigration, and they had to try and defend the economy. And voters in enough numbers weren't buying their lines. And you hear this, as I said, some of the same things from the Trudeau Liberals. Well, actually, the economy's really not bad when you compare Canada to, whatever, Brazil. A lot of Americans weren't buying that. High cost of housing, high cost of groceries. None of this sounds familiar, of course. Higher interest rates, higher car loans, high rents, all of this stuff. And in the end, it was over. Trump won, Harris lost. And we're on to new topics tomorrow because I'm trumped out. Latest breaking news coming up next on News Radio.